hello. I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked...
G'day ballers and welcome to the SC Ballers podcast. My name's Jono, coach of the Half-Beans, and with me to talk about all the big news coming into round 23 of the NRL SuperCoach season, joined by a couple of very, very special guests. Well, one special guest and Matt. So, Matt, I'm going to introduce you first. You are the coach of the Terrace Crew. You're the head honcho of Baller Podcasting. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Yeah, pumped for tonight. It's head-to-head finals week. So plenty to discuss there. We've got a monstrous blueprint, which I'm sure we'll get to soon. But, yeah, mainly just excited for our special guest tonight, mate, and I'll let you do the honours.
Yeah, our other guest tonight joining us, he's been on a couple of watch-longs, but it's his SC Ballers podcast debut. It is Brien, a.k.a. the NRL Physio. How are you, mate?
Very, very glad to be on board, boys. It's head-to-head finals, which is the time of year, because I'm well out of it in overall, that I, start to get up and about. And it's draft finals for me as well. I'm in a few there as well. I'm a big draft guy. So, tonight, sort of sitting down. I haven't done my waivers yet either. So going through that tonight's going to really help with that as well, which will be great.
Brian, are you a cash league man in terms of like classic Supercoach, or do you just focus that for your draft leagues?
Yeah, no, just draft. So I've fair bit of money on the line in draft because that's kind of been we probably only really started taking classic seriously the last kind of 3 or 4 years with the podcast because we'd been pretty much draft fairly exclusive for a while. But some heavy hitters over at draft, but nothing yet on the classic front, unfortunately.
Oh, good. What about you, Matty?
Yeah, no, I got draft leagues. I've got the big draft, Jono, which we excluded you from this year. The ballers draft, which I've come 5th in, and it's a 14-team league, so it's quite deep. So I'm in an elimination final this week, and we got some big cash on the line there. So I don't think I'm going to win any though, unfortunately, but that's okay. Injuries have curtailed my year. And then some head-to-head cash leagues as well. Like I think I'm in one that's with couple other podcast guys for $500 entry. So desperate to win that. I finished 2nd. I got beat on the weekend to get the week off, so that stung a bit in top 5 system. But yeah, a few cash leagues floating about, mate. So plenty of money to be made, and looking forward to diving because we don't do much head-to-head. We haven't this year. I'm sure we will moving forward, but we haven't gone too deep into head-to-head this year. So pumped to find out. While I've got the mic, I just wanted to ask Brien quickly, mate. We've loved having you as a partner at Ball this year, and just wanted to hear from you a bit on our pod. Just some of the stuff you've enjoyed about Baller and working with us, and how it's just been such a great natural fit for you and the work you do over at Magic Sponge and NRL Physio.
Yeah, mate, like I think what I'm an expert in, I would like to think, is physio, right? And James is kind of the same over at the Sponge. We're both physios, and that's kind of like our bread and butter. And we like to consider ourselves armchair experts when it comes to footy and those kind of things. But I think from a Supercoach perspective, like we like to interweave our show kind of, relating the injury stuff to the Supercoach stuff. But it's been hard to do that when... Look, I think I'm a good Supercoach player, and particularly when it comes to draft. But like Ball has just allowed us to be a lot more professional with the way that we go about that stuff, even though we're a bit loose at times. I think James thought he had one trade left because he had a boost and he had 0 trades, and he thought he could just turn that boost into a trade. So our professionalism does go out the window at times. But that just shows you, right? Like, so it's just been great working with Baller to kind of, be able to put some juice behind like our takes, I think. And then like from a personal perspective, like I made the joke on our pod the other night, is that like listening to you boys talk about your captain's choices and your averages, and you're talking like, oh, did you get over or under 100? And I'm like, I haven't done mine, but I reckon it'd be like 70, right? Like and so like having all of the Baller stuff from next year to help me make those decisions, I think is going to be hugely beneficial.
Yeah, no, mate, we've loved having you on board and loved the partnership that we've struck up, and really happy for you to be on the main podcast tonight. That's all, John. That's all I needed. Just a quick. I just wanted to hear Brien wax lyrical about Baller for a couple of minutes, but it was perfect.
Brian, can I ask, where are you sitting ranks-wise this year? We all know Matt's highly ranked. He brings it up all the time. I think, Matt, 25th at the moment?
25th. Another green arrow, Jono, after my big red arrow a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, up 2 spots to 25th. So zoning, really would love to get back to the top 10. That's my goal.
That's the goal for the end of the year?
Yep.
And what about you, Brian? Where are you sitting this year?
5,700. So I've dropped in the last 3 weeks. I went from 2,800 to 5,700. So it's been a pretty grim. So I was doing pretty well. But yeah, it's been a grim couple of weeks on the front of the fear factor mongers. So yeah, we're looking to make some big moves this week and hopefully come home strong and see maybe, I don't know, like top 2,000 or something like that. See how I go.
Nice. And you're using your last trade this week, aren't you?
I am, yeah. Yeah, do we want to reveal that?
Don't spoil it.
Yeah, okay. We'll wait until the good stuff. Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into a bit of the admin before we get into the big topics of the week. First of all, Run Home Challenge. The round winner was Lawrence Broncos, had a 14-16, captain Reece Walsh, and is also leading the way after 3 rounds. So well done to Lawrence Broncos. Matty, I believe the first couple of baller prize winners have started to get some things in the mail.
They have, mate. Jason, who we found on YouTube of all places last week, he was the week 1 winner. He's got a merch pack coming his way, and you're sporting the new hoodies there tonight. You've just got yours today, I believe, or yesterday.
Yesterday, very happy, good quality. I've got to say, I don't know who you guys have gone through to get it done, but you haven't shirked. You've got the good stuff.
Skimping, mate. Yeah, good stuff, high quality, the baller stuff. But yeah, so they got the merch packs coming. We've had the Young GI shirt giveaways as well on the watch alongs. Some very funny stuff there on the watch along to win the Young GI shirts. That's been awesome. But yeah, Lawrence Broncos, and I think she's actually winning the whole Run Home Challenge. Not only she's topped the week, but she's topped the Run Home Challenge after 2 rounds. So she'll be she's in the box seat to take home the 3K.
Yeah, very good. And I mean, I did say that, but I'll let you say it again. It was very important to let people know.
As I was listening, that's good. I was actually trying to get the ladder up so I could talk about it. And,
Well done, Lauren. You get 2 shout-outs. So 3, actually, all in all. Matt, do you want to give us, I'm going to just throw to you because that way I know you'll listen if you say it. Do you want to give us a season-long league update, please?
So long time leader. Well, certainly he's been up there for almost all season. Justin, coach of Just Toto Good, he leads the way. He's in 6th overall, I believe, or close enough. But yeah, he's only leads by 19 points over They Killed Kinney, Adam.
That's a great name.
Great name. Yeah, I know Adam a little bit, and he's a very, very good SuperCoach player, so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him take it out. He's sort of picked his way through the field. And then Neil, another coach of methamphetamines, which is quite a good name too. But mate, these are good. The cream is genuinely rising to the top here. These are all very, very good players. And it would be remiss of me not to shout out our mate Teddy, who is 4th, Thomas, coach of Skilo. He's 4th overall, another very good player. But yeah, it's cream to the top.
And Matt, in terms of things coming up for this week, obviously you guys will do the Q&A pod on Thursday as well, but also Thursday night, big watch-along, Storm versus the Broncos. It's yourself and Danny Boy making his debut on the watch-alongs.
Well, sometimes he just drops in unannounced and just kind of turns up.
Hangs around.
Yeah, he just sort of hangs around. But he's coming to us live. He's in Denmark, of all places.
Yeah, good.
And he's like, I'm on holidays. I'm just going to come in and do a quick watch-along. So, yeah, we'll figure it out. I think Tubes is actually, as long as Tubes is considering going to the Storm Broncos or he's considering going to Pies Hawthorn. So, knowing Tubes, he'll go to neither, and then he'll be joining us on the watch-along. So, he talks a big game. It's like his SuperCoach. Talks a big game early in the week, and then when it comes to the crunch, he bottles it. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll see Tubes on the watch-along, I'd say, on Thursday night. But yeah, plenty going on. There's it's content out the wazoo. We've got these NRL head-to-head, these NRL SuperCoach finals game that Tommy Sangster has announced. We're just waiting with bated breath. I've reached out to Tommy. I'm looking for an embargoed press release as to what the game actually is. The trouble is I don't think they've figured it out themselves. So anyway, I have got a commitment, though, that Tommy's going to come on the podcast once they announce it. Yep. So that'll be awesome too. He'll be our second most famous guest after Brien, of course.
All right. Well, we are going to do a big baller blueprint. It's normally how we start the pod. This week, we're doing a big head-to-head finals for our Baller Blueprints. We're actually going to flip the script a little bit. We're going to do some of the big team news and positional stuff first. Then we're going to come back at the end for those of you who want to get the insight and some really good baller projections that will help you for that head-to-head finals run home. So let's start, fellas, with some of the biggest SC questions of the week. Obviously, Brian, much to your chagrin, Herbie Farnworth went down injured on the weekend. The sniper got him. It was as he was going to set up a try. Just a disaster for the 80% plus who own Herbie in SuperCoach. Disaster for Dolphins fans. How are you feeling about it as a general thing, mate? Have you recovered?
Mate, I am, I did a lot of research, went down the rabbit hole to see what the worldwide hamstring injury, treatments, give me some sort of miracles. Because, look, to be honest with you, I think as a Finns fan, I'd kind of almost I was enjoying what we were doing, but with our forward injuries, I'd kind of written off this year, but Herbie had given me hope. But yeah, now it's kind of brought me back down to earth again. So yeah, and then as a super coach, mate, there is still some chance that he's back in round 27 if people want to kind of, take that risk. But I'm not going to be one of those. I'm going to move on because I know hamstrings can be a little bit touchy, especially with re-injury risk.
Haven't you heard the news though, Brian, that he's walking around Finn's training calling himself Deadpool? Such is his recovery, such is his ability of recovery. I don't know. I'm no physio or medical expert, but that looked pretty high on the hammy where he incurred that injury as well. So I'm not even sure Deadpool strength is going to get him back from this one in time for round 26, round 27.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm definitely not putting much stock in it because even if he comes back, if he comes back early, your re-injury risk is really high. So it's he could be out there and re-injure it 15 minutes in, and we've seen what he can do in 15 minutes, obviously with the weekend just gone, but he doesn't do that. What did you guys have called him Junkworth at times? Throughout sometimes he leaves his run late, so. If he gets injured at, 5 or 10 minutes in, that could be a problem. So, yeah, no, it's just not something, unless you're tossing up between him and I've got Dylan Lucas and Keon Koloamatangi still on my team, but I just can't get rid of them. So, but if you're making a choice between those guys, I'd get rid of one of the other guys, obviously. But yeah, no, I'm not looking to hold on to Herbie.
Don't get Jono started on Herbie Junkworth.
Yeah.
Or just junk in general.
Oh, yeah, I'm the junk police. Matt, do you want to, for the benefit of the YouTube viewers, do you want to screen share some of these centre wing facts and figures for us? Let's do a bit of a deep dive. So we are going to start off with some of the higher owned centre wings before we get into Herbie replacements, just to have a little bit of a look at their run home. And then we're going to get into some of the guys who are a little bit lower, maybe more pod options to talk about. Brian, can I ask, I don't want to reveal who you're trading in, but have you been able to work that in any way as your Herbie replacement, or are you going to be sticking with Herbie for the run home?
No, so at the moment, I had 2 trades left last week, and I was going to burn both of them to get rid of one of Keon or Dylan Lucas. But the way that it had all worked out, I was running a CTW at flex, which kind of I didn't feel great about. So I ended up only burning 1 trade last week, being if a CTW goes down, I want to be able to bring in a fullback or a halfback or something like that. And then Herbie went down, so I was like, perfect. So now not perfect, but I can now use that trade to turn Herbie into anyone, which puts me in a different position to a lot of people who are going Herbie straight to a CTW. But it's a good position for me to be in a overall shitty position, I guess.
Matty, do you want to give us a run through? We have the centre wing high ownership players. Do you want to give us a bit of a run through about who baller projections are having as the ones you're never going to be leaving out of your team?
Yeah, so I thought we would split this, Jono, into that high ownership versus low ownership view, because these players on screen, a lot of people would own now already, so not in the market for. I want to highlight the Jacob Kiraz here. So we've got, for those on audio, we've got projections here for round 23 to round 26, which is the head-to-head finals period, and we've got their total points scored and their projected averages for round 23 to round 26. Now, I want to note here, Jacob Kiraz, Jono, he's quite the edge case when it comes to projections in terms of how we look at it. So he's playing fullback. He named it fullback, but clearly he was playing center in attack the other day. So we've put him down at center for our projections and tried to get his base as kind of close as we would want to see it for a fullback. And then we've got Stephen Crichton projected at fullback. So what that shows is Kiraz is projected for 74.5 points there through to the end. Now, most people will own one of Lomax or Kiraz, but the main thing to highlight here is just how far clear of the field Zach Lomax is from a projection basis. So we're projecting
huge.
We're projecting a 4-round average of 91.6 for Zach. That reflects, obviously, what a great player he is and what a great Supercoach asset he is, but also Parramatta's draw, which is really juicy, starting with the Cowboys this week.
So if you were only, basically, Matt, I think from that, what you're saying, especially highlighting that difference in role between Kiraz and Lomax, with Kiraz obviously not going to be playing that traditional fullback role like we hoped. If someone has Herbie and doesn't own those guys, do you think Lomax is the clear... If you don't own Lomax, he is the clear best option in Supercoach available to get for Herbie?
I think he's the only option that I would get out of these high ownership guys. I think I would take on the other guys with pod options who we'll look at in a minute at the lower ownership levels. I don't, and we'll see that in their projections. So we've got Garrick here at 73, Marky Mark 60, 66, and Asako 62. There's just no way I would consider any of them if I didn't own them already. Kiraz probably as well in this hybrid role. Like, it's not a good role, I don't think, for him. And I'm hesitant to read too much into a single game because it was so wet. And as Tubes, I mean, I don't know how many times Tubes announced it on the pod, but it was just those wet games were just a write-off, Jono. So I'm hesitant to put too much stock in it, but I don't like the role of him playing centre in attack. It's just not conducive to high upside attacking points. So I would only be buying Lomax from the high upside options. And yeah, I think that run is too good to ignore if you don't own Zach. I think he's a clear choice as a Herbie replacement.
Brian, interested, I don't know too much about who's actually in your classic team. Of these high ownership guys, Lomax, Kiraz, Gaddick, Marky Mark, Nwangani Tuivasa, and Jermaine Asako, how many of those guys do you own in your team?
All of them.
Wow, there you go.
All of them, yeah. So I literally, that is, you've just read out my CTW at this point in time. So I am not very, the only, I guess you could say, point of difference that I own is To'o, which hasn't gone well for me at the moment. But yeah, so literally my CTW is what you've got listed plus To'o and Karapani. So that's where I'm at with mine at the moment, and probably only really happy with Lomax and Kiraz moving forward, maybe Garrick.
All right, well, Matt, let's get into some of these lower ownership options. And let's assume that most people are in a position like Brian and are probably owning guys like Lomax and Kiraz, because even with Kiraz's role, I still think he's a touch of class. I think he's quality. If I didn't own him, and I already did own Lomax, I would still bring in Kiraz without much hesitation at all. For me, I think the clear best low ownership player, he was about 10% coming into this round. I think he's pushed up to near 18% now as we're speaking. It's Dane Gagai for the Newcastle Knights. I've owned Dane for a couple of weeks now, and he has not disappointed at all. He's a goal-kicking fullback, and it's not a hybrid role. He's a legitimate fullback, Gagai. He loves base. He loves busting tackles. He is hungry at the Knights. He's goal-kicking. I think he's a slam dunk option, and I'm surprised that he's not more purchased than 8% as he is as it stands. Matt, am I overrating Gagai? Is that biased because I own him, or is it a fairly good case?
Mate, not according to Baller. We've had to turn a few knobs and just looking at Gagai objectively to actually bring his projection down slightly from where our model wants it to get. So he's projected 83.5 for the rest of the season. That's notwithstanding the Knights' tough draw. So they obviously have Penrith this week, which is their toughest match. But you can see there that that's his lowest projection of the season to go, 77.5. I think that people are a bit hesitant on Gagai because of that match this week and are just maybe keeping their powder dry slightly. But 77.5 is still an amazing projection this week. And yeah, I'm almost certainly moving Herbie to Gagai. There's a little bit in me just saying, oh, would it be worth holding the trade and maybe playing someone else in my 18 this week? So that would be the only reason I wouldn't do it. But I think out of these guys, yeah, the Gagai is the clear standout. It's just the role and the goal kicking. So We've seen now for a few weeks sample, we've seen what the role looks like. He's sweeping. It looks good. He's obviously got that amazing base still and the goal kicking. So that raises his floor well up as well. So yeah, I'm a big Dane believer.
The only things I could say as downsides about Dane Gagai is I was at the Raiders game where the Knights played, and I was watching him very closely, as you do when you own a player in SuperCoach. You do not take your eyes off them. Dane Gas Guy, I was calling him, because he was getting gassed pretty easily, Dane. He has these moments where when he's playing fullback, he will go so hard that he then kind of has 5 quiet minutes to get himself back together, and then he re-injects himself into the game. But I'm hoping that the more play he gets at fullback, the more that kind of fitness base lifts up and he can stop having those little moments. Matt, you might need to stop turning the baller models down on Gagai. So far, 3 games at fullback, he's gone 104, 93, 92. Brian, what do you make of Gags?
Love him. Queensland Origin legend, Dane Gagai. So always got a lot of time for him. I think, Ricky Stewart said it. Not that I'm the biggest fan of what Ricky says at times, but he said, if you're looking to, kind of kick Newcastle off and get things going, he'd be one of the first you'd sign. And I think he just never stops. And if you put him in a position like fullback where he can get his hands on the ball more and he can do more, he's going to do it. So, if I had more than one trade, he would be coming in for me for sure.
Jono, I just want to for those on YouTube, we've got Phil Sammy on this list. He's obviously not named this week. I'd done this list pre-teams today, so we can ignore him. Brian, I just wanted to ask about Gags as well. He's and it's a bit of a question on the spot, but his injury history this year, like Jono mentioned, he looks a bit gassed. There's nothing. He hasn't had too many problems beyond being sort of a bit older, has he?
Yeah, he copped a cork. I think it was
against the Warriors.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So cop to cork. So yeah, but he's had the bye last week. So that's unless you're Tommy Turbo who misses 4 weeks with a cork. Then corks are usually pretty minor, so he should be sweet.
Let's talk about another Newcastle Knights pod replacement for Herbie Farnworth. I'll be honest, this is one I haven't put any thought into until I saw him on this list right now. It's Bradman Best, who's coming in at 682k. He has a baller run home projection of 69.2. And it tends to be fairly solid. Doesn't look like there's a lot of fluctuation in his projections. He's projected to go 67 this week against the Panthers. Brian, he is coming back from an injury. Is that correct? Yes. Do you know off the top of your head what he's returning from?
Yeah, so it's a medial ligament in his knee, so it's not the MCL. It's a little ligament that kind of holds your kneecap in place on the inner side of the kneecap. So a really good example for him is Samuela Fainu, which maybe people who don't listen to my pod probably haven't paid much attention to, but it's something that I don't love it. I don't love it because of the aggravation risk. Like Samuela Fainu's had early showers at points during the year. He's just come back off missing 2 weeks from aggravating the same thing, and it doesn't take much to aggravate them at times. So for me, unless you already own like all the guys on this list, effectively, Bradman Best isn't somebody who I would consider against an RTS or a Josh Addo-Carr with similar projections who are healthy.
Yeah.
What about? Oh, sorry, Matty. You have something on Bradman Best?
No. Yeah, I was just going to say on Best, like, whilst his projections are not super draw dependent, I think that sort of shows as well a bit of his. I would prefer an easier draw for Bradman because, I would prefer an easier draw just with the upside of Bradman, and then with what Brian has said, he'd be a no-go for me there.
All right, well, let's get on to Stephen Crichton, who, for someone, I'm in a position where I don't own Matt. I don't own Osaka or Mark Nwangani Tuivasa, and I think you're right. I'm not looking at them as options coming into this week. As someone who owns Gagai and Beau Fermor, and I'll tell you what, Beau Fermor better be on this list, Matt, or you're going to have an unhappy host in a moment. Stephen Crichton, I think, is a fantastic option. He's 591k. Matt gave us a bit of a preview before when talking about Jacob Kidd. Crichton is basically, when it comes to the red zone, he is playing fullback on that right edge, which is exactly the role that Connor Tracy used to play. Stephen Crichton, for me, is a really good pod option. The only question marks I have is the Dogs do have a tough draw. It's been well publicised that they haven't gone well against top 8 teams this year. And coming home, the Dogs have games against 4 top 8 teams in their run home. Brian, Crichton, am I crazy to look at him, or do you think he's a pretty good pod option?
I had him in draft, and he's was a tough own for the first half of the season, but has really picked up. I guess the biggest thing I would say is I trust what Gus Gould says as far as I can throw him, in terms of he's kind of said that, Connor Tracy's definitely going to miss 3 weeks, and then he'll be a couple of weeks after that and all that kind of thing. But like even something as little as kind of what he said on one of the shows, I think was, he'll need like 3 weeks of complete rest.
Yeah, okay.
But then we saw Connor Tracy at the game on the weekend kicking the ball like during the warm up and stuff and so I'm like, is it really as bad as Gus says? Like, I love the access that he gives us, but I just don't know. So I guess my main thing would be with Stephen Crichton, don't assume that he's going to be in this hybrid role for the rest of the regular season, because I just don't trust enough of what Gus has said. If what he said is true, then yes, it'll probably be like a 5-week return to play for Tracy, best case. But yeah, I just don't know. It's just too hard to understand sometimes with him.
Matty, what about you for Stephen Crichton? I don't think I mentioned he's the goal kicker as well, which obviously, Brian, that probably helps with why he's come good for your draft team from halfway through the year once he got that kicking. And the Dogs are a fairly good team. That probably adds to him. Matty, what's your Stephen Crichton thoughts?
Before I get on to Crichton there, John, I do need to apologise. I don't have Beau Fermor on this list. I do. We can give those 4-round projections at the end of this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did have, as I mentioned in the green room, a bit of a busy afternoon, so I didn't get to update this as much as I like. I do like a couple of the pods at the bottom, though, particularly Addo-Carr, and we'll get to him in a minute. Crichton, I would be willing, if it wasn't for Dane Gagai, I would be willing to punt on Crichton, just with that upside, notwithstanding the uncertainty over Connor Tracy. Worst case scenario is we see him back at centre. Tracy comes back a week or two early, and we see him as a goal-kicking centre. They play Sharks in the last round, which is it's a tastiest matchup. They do have a tough matchup before then, so there are a few little red flags in there. So that is a concern. I will say that if you are buying Stephen Crichton, this is the week to do it. They've got the Warriors at home. The Warriors earlier in the year were suffocating teams defensively. They've just been hit so badly with injuries. Obviously, Barnett and Metcalf gone for the year, but now we've seen Egan go down, Fisher Harris go down. They get Chanel Harris-Tavita back this week, but I'm not sure how much that's actually going to help. So I would expect the Bulldogs to bounce back strongly off a loss this week, and potentially do a number on the Dogs. Would I buy Stephen Crichton? Yes, I think he's the second best option.
All right, well, let's just jump straight to your pod then that you said you like. You mentioned him, so we may as well go there, because Josh Addo-Carr's not one that I've put any thought into, and I'll be honest, he's not one I'm going to put any thought into. I'm interested to see how strong of a case you can make. Yeah,
so I wouldn't have either, but he just came up on the projection. So projected for 66 on the run home. He's got a high score this year of 106, plenty of scores in the 50s and 60s. His floor has actually been all right. He's only got one terrible score of 17, which was against Manly back in round 12, which that must have been an Origin-impacted game, one of those weird ones. But I just think it's all about, for someone like Addo-Carr, it's all about the draw. So we know he's on that fertile left wing. They play Cowboys at home, then Souths, then Roosters, then Warriors away, which could go either way, and then finish with Newcastle, which I'm dubbing the Battle of Bali, because that's where both teams will be. Mines will be that day, so that should be a real shootout. I just think especially, obviously if you're selling Herbie, money's not an issue, but if you are trying to get one up on your head-to-head opponent, I just think that Addo-Carr could be a flyer. I don't like him better than Gagai and Crichton, to be honest. But yeah, I'd be with Fizz. I'd probably prefer him over someone like a Best. And then I think it's really one for the pod hunters.
Brian, what are your thoughts on Roger Tuivasa-Sheck? He is one that I know Tubes has made the point on the Sunday Snap a couple of times about how Roger doesn't seem to have that speed to get to the corner. He's doing a lot more cutting back in. Base plus power is fairly solid. What do you make of 32-year-old RTS?
Yeah, I don't mind him. I would probably, with the certainty around his role, I'd be tempted like him versus Stephen Crichton, just because you're more than likely going to get RTS on that wing for the rest of the season, and his role isn't going to change. And the Warriors have got a pretty good draw. They haven't looked fantastic in recent times, but yeah, I probably like him a little bit more just because trades are running low. Like, I think maybe I'm a little bit biased because I don't have many trades left, but I'm viewing it from the position of somebody with very few trades left, and I think that's a lot of people out there.
It is.
And if that's the case, I'd rather lock in like an RTS and know that's what I'm getting, rather than like if I trade in Crichton and he goes back to centre in 2 weeks' time, like, yeah, he's still got the goal kicking, but yeah, maybe just his projection. I don't know what would happen to his projections, but I assume they would drop a fair bit.
Yeah. Also, nice draw. Like, the Warriors played, obviously, the Dogs, who Matt mentioned before, but then they go Dragons, Titans, Parramatta, Manly. That's a pretty nice run home too, and there's no reason why Roger couldn't crash over for a couple of tries over that space.
I just don't get it. Like, Roger, his meters are unbelievable. He nearly broke. I think he's got the second most. So it was the second most run meters in NRL history on the weekend. I'm just going to look at his stats on the baller player stats table, Jono, while we're getting this up. His base plus power just hasn't quite been there this year. So he's
50.2 over the last 5 rounds.
Yeah, and 53.7 for the last 3 rounds. So that's up on his season of 45. So he's definitely trending the right way. He's obviously very fit at the moment. You mentioned the draw. Whilst you're right, like, that is a really good draw after this week. I do worry though about the Warriors' form, and I do think they're actually a team to target as an opposition as SuperCoach. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see them win a few of those games. And Andrew Webster seems like a great coach, and they all desperately want to play for him. So yeah. Good.
RTS did have a pretty nasty hamstring injury earlier in the year, and I think it took him a little bit to kind of come back from that. So I think that's kind of contributed a little bit as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm putting serious thought into Roger as my Herbie replacement. I am. I just like that draw. And I agree. Brien made that really good point there about coming back from a hamstring injury, his body getting a little bit fitter and more used to that. And Matt, that base plus power is trending in the right direction. So I like it. Matt, do you want to go across to the next slide for those watching on YouTube?
Yep. Give me one sec.
Dramas. I'll just keep an eye out for Beau, Fermor.
Oh, here they are.
There they are. Can we just quickly talk about Beau Fermor before we talk about some of these pods? I don't think we'll talk about everyone on this list, but Beau Fermor, for me, of these lesser-owned guys, I think he's the best behind Dane Gagai. I'd put him up above Stephen Crichton. He is just a base plus power machine. His role is so set at the Titans. I like the partnership that he's got going with Kieran Foran. I think that's really kind of coming along. Although if Keanu Kinney returns, maybe that won't be for much longer. But he's currently, I'm going to talk about his draw. His draw coming up is Rabbitohs this week. You do not get a better matchup in SuperCoach than that. Then they go the Sharks, a little bit tougher. Then the Warriors, which, Matt, you spoke before about they're conceding a few points. Then the Finns. Then they finish off the year with the Tigers. That is a very tasty draw for the run home for Beau Fermor. I think he's a fantastic option. I know there's a lot of people out there who own Kane Bradley. If they have in that second row forward, you also have the option to flip around Big Bad Beau. So I really like him. I don't think he's been talked about enough.
Why? What would you go him over AJ Brimson? And I'll let Fizz, I'll let Brien wax lyrical about AJ Brimson because I know he's his biggest fan at fullback. But I just think if you're bringing someone in now, you want the ceiling. And I'm not saying Beau doesn't have a ceiling because he's obviously a very good player, very good drawer, and we've seen him go back-to-back tons earlier in the year. So I just think it's just not vibey enough for me at this time of year, Jono. And I don't think he's a bad pick. I think I'd want someone with a bit more dynamite up the jumper.
I like Brimo as an option, but Brien, do you want to give us your kind of thoughts on, I mentioned Keanu Kinney, do you want to give us your thoughts on that whole situation and how it could impact Brimo?
Yeah, I think we started talking about it off air, but my main thing with Kinney, he's named to start in Queensland Cup this week. So my thing there is it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that they're bringing him back. And so when we start, like I always say with injury stuff, it's always uncertainty that makes me nervous. Like when I know and have information and it seems all logical, I'm much more, I guess, versed to kind of deal with what's ahead of me. Whereas here, I've just got no idea. So like it seems a little bit weird that Kenny's even coming back this year. I would then say, he probably won't play NRL would be the logical thing, but it just seems like logic is a bit all over the shop. So and Brimson's been killing it at fullback, but does that even matter? Like I don't know if that matters to the Titans at the moment because they're bringing Kenny back and just kind of running him, even though he's had a major neck surgery and they're not playing for much. So yeah, I think that's probably my biggest hesitation with someone like Brimson, a bit similar to the Stephen Crichton, discussion before, is I love Brimo. I think he's so wasted when he's not played at fullback for the Titans, but I just, if you low on trades and you're bringing in Brimo, there's a real chance that next week he could be back at 6, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's still not what you're paying for this week.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I forgot about that. I still reckon they'd be mad. Like, he's in such good form. Like, I mean,
but Matt, they'd be mad to even bring Keeney back this year. This is my
crazy
thing, right? Like it's the same with the Rabbits, bringing back all their guys. Like, I'm like, you're mad. Like, what if Kenny goes out there and significantly hurts himself this weekend? Like, you'd just be going, why did we even risk that? Like, why didn't we just get him right for next year? I just don't. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
Jono, just before we move on from centre wing, because I know we're sort of we've had a good dive in here. I just want to bring up one pod who's on this screen here, if that's all right.
Please.
Braidon Burns at the bottom. Now he's a name that not many people would have thought about with SuperCoach this year. We can see he's 556k. He's got a projected average of 61 for the finals. Now, I've got to be very specific here. This is for head-to-head players only. They have the bye in 27 when we're probably going to see a lot of carnage with restings and whatnot. So head-to-head, though, he plays Parramatta, Newcastle, Tigers, Broncos at home. That's a really good run. Now, the Cowboys get Clifford back this week. They get Tamalolo back. Excuse me. I think just Burns on the end of that line, on the end of that back line, he'll be right wing. I'm pretty sure. Labert's named on the wing this week, so I don't know where they're gonna be. But I just think Burns he's got the base power. He's just a really, really another solid option as a pod. He's a bit safer than Addo-Carr, I would say, but probably with similar upside. So yeah, I just wanted to throw his name in the ring for pod hunters playing head to head.
Geez, we're going long on centre wing, and then you spend a minute talking about Braidon Burns of all people. When Brian Toto was on that list, we could have spoken about him. We spoke about Braidon Burns. Well, I'm gonna get this, steer this back on track, and I'm just going to say Brian Toto, and I'm going to speak to the Brian that we have on. You are a Brian Toto owner. You are not a huge fan of what you've seen of him since you've owned him in SuperCoach.
Yeah, it just it hasn't been there for him since I brought him in. I have a really bad relationship with Penrith outside backs. It seems like whenever I bring him in, they just absolutely go horribly. But yeah, I think like he's got all these niggling injuries. He seems to do okay, but I think the biggest thing working against him, which I think you guys have spoken about on the Snap a few times, is they just go left like that. I brought Toto in thinking Cleary back. They're going to go right, but they just go left. They do not, and it just doesn't, even if they go right, it ends up, Dylan Edwards scores. He scored on the weekend with Toto untouched on the outside, but Dylan Edwards was also untouched. So it just doesn't seem to need to get all the way out to him. So, yeah, I mean, I'd almost prefer, if you could give me a free trade and I could trade Toto to Jenkins right now, I'd probably do it. Just because I think there's more upside there at this point in time with the way Panthers are playing.
Yeah, they've scored nearly 3 times the amount of tries this year, Brian. So that's not just a gut feel thing. Like it is a thing. They're definitely targeting that left edge more. Right, that's a massive deep dive into centre wing. Hopefully from all that, you can make up your mind as to who your Herbie Farnworth replacement's going to be. I'm just going to chuck it out there, fellas. One thing we didn't talk about is I'm just not going to trade Herbie Farnworth this week. I'm going to hold on to him. I feel like I can cover my team well enough is where I think I'm landing. And my plan is, Matt, I know a couple of years ago you had Cooler when he moved to fullback for that run home. It pushed you right up in the ranks. I'm waiting to see who that guy is. I'm not going to make a move yet because I just don't like. I think everyone we spoke about has question marks against him, except for Gagai, except for Lomax. Everyone else has question marks on him. So my thing is just going to be hold back, name a team without him, and get a little bit more information and see if I can make a pod move later on.
I think that's incredibly viable strategy, Jono. Well summed up. I've seen your team too, and I think that's definitely the right move. It's really team dependent. So just have a look at your numbers. You know, I'm in a position where I'd be bringing in Gagai, and it means I would sit someone like Tommy Starling. So I kind of wish the games were a bit of a different order, so then I could get a look at how Tom Starling. Well, no, I wouldn't get a look at how Tom Starling went, but just get a look at how the round's playing out and make a decision from there. But it's obviously they're the second game, the Knights, so he'll have to come in pretty early. Yeah, so it's just have a look at how your squad's balanced this week and weigh up how you can maximize that trade later and depending on what your goal is as well. Do you desperately, are you in an elimination final in head to head this week? Do you have to win? Then obviously Gagai is a massive upgrade on Tom Starling. So yeah, that's why you've got to start thinking about it.
All right, let's get into a couple of the other big talking points coming out of the team list and some of the trade trends. Jayden Campbell is being traded in by 9%. As it stands, I believe he's one of the most traded in players in SuperCoach this week. What do you guys make of that? He's available for 620K. I think he's a really good trade. I'm not quite sure where people are fitting him in, but I do like the draw. We spoke about the draw when we spoke about Beau Fermor. I think it's a really strong draw. I think he has not had his last big score of the year for me. What do you think, Matty?
Yeah, I think he's almost the number one buy of the week. If you're in Brian's situation and you had to pick at flex, like I won't go into who Brian's thinking about just yet, but I think Campbell's got a 4-round projection of 85. Their draw's great. I was chatting to some friends on the weekend about the prospects of sitting Campbell last weekend against Penrith. And this is where the ball projections just stood out massively to me. He was projected 69, which obviously on face value doesn't sound amazing, but for a draw against Penrith when they're 14-point underdogs, for him to still project 69, there was just no way I was ever sitting him. And he comes out and gives 115, and that's just okay. Well, that's just proved its worth straight away because you don't know sometimes if you can't quantify it how that fits in. But I don't think Campbell's ever a sit. If he's going to be projected 69 in a game like that, then yeah, he's just a superstar SuperCoach player.
Matty, I know you like to save usually captain's chat a little bit for the Q&A show.
That's all right.
But I just want to quickly with Campbell because I think it's really relevant. Brian, I'm a little bit scared. I at the moment have the VC on Cleary and the C on Jayden Campbell. There's just something that doesn't feel right about a C next to Jayden Campbell's name on my SuperCoach app. I'd feel more comfortable if it was the other way around. I could VC Jayden, get the C on Cleary. What are your thoughts on that? Am I just being unreasonable? Is he the clear captain option for this week?
No, he makes me nervous too because it just comes back to logic is out the window with the Titans. Like they seem to be turning up for games like on the weekend against the Panthers where you wouldn't have expected it, and then they're other weeks they're just getting blown apart. So yeah, I definitely am nervous enough where I'd even almost tend to lean more like a Zach Lomax. I think as a captain option against I think they're playing the Cowboys in last game. Is that right? Yeah. So I'd even feel more comfortable at him, even though Lomax had a poor game on the weekend. You just kind of know what you're getting with Lomax a little bit more. And with the captains, I don't like to be as wild as Jayden Campbell a lot of the time where he could score 30 or he could score 130. So yeah, but I totally get where you're coming from.
What about you, Matty? What's your early instincts?
I wouldn't have any problem captaining him. The fixture's so good. We'll get to some points conceded by teams in a little bit, but yeah, I'd have no problems. To be honest, I haven't gone deep enough. I think for me there are three clear options: Cleary, Campbell, and Lomax. The problem I have is Campbell and Lomax are the last two games, so I would ideally like to sit like a Tommy Starling or a Marky Mark. But I'm not going to have that luxury. So who do I drop is going to be my problem if I want to loop Campbell. So I think it'd have to be Drinkwater, and there's no way I'm doing that. So I'm going to have to go with a VC Cleary, I think, and then make up my mind about JC or Lomax after that.
One of the other big talking points of the round, and Brian, I think it's almost time to talk about your final trade of the year, because Tommy Turbo has been named at fullback. I'm just going to throw straight to you, Brian. Tell us what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah, he's coming in. At this point in time, it's that simple. Look, like, I won't pretend that this is like the baller projections have absolutely confirmed my bias in that they've come out, and I'll let you guys talk about kind of what he's looking like over the next 3 or 4 weeks. But as soon as I saw him playing fullback, look, it's just soaked in vibes, this trade. I've said at least 10, 11, 12 times on my podcast this year, don't touch Turbo for the rest of the year. It's too much of a risk. But I just love Turbo. Like, I love him, have loved him since forever. And I think I've got one trade left. Herbie's gone down. I've got to pick a fullback. And it just feels right. Like if my season goes down in flames, it's going down putting faith in Tom Trbojevic, which I'm not. Like, I advise everybody else to definitely take some pause there. But I just think, like, my biggest thing with this is I want to bring in a guy that I will feel is a captain option in some weeks. And, like, even a Dane Gagai, who is another guy who I'm considering, it's a bit like Jayden Campbell. I don't know, Dane Gagai with the captain next to his name doesn't feel quite right to me. Whereas, like, Tommy Turbo, I think he's got 2 or 3 games at 4 points, whatever it is. Like, I would feel so confident putting the captaincy next to his name in those fixtures. So that's kind of my big thing, is I really want a high upside captain option.
You've gone real deep in the filing cabinet upstairs
Lotto
there,
Land.
Brian, for Lotto Land. Yeah, that's excellent.
Matt, geez, your whole manner's changed since Tommy Turbo came up. You brought him in last week, and haven't you just luckbox Matt strikes again? A week later, he's named at fullback. Lehigh's out of the team.
Mate, I'll give you the hot tip. I'd go back a week and trade Reece Walsh in instead of Turbo if I could right now. In saying that, yes, you're right that this week Tom Trbojevic is a much better buy than Reece
Way better.
Walsh.
Yes.
So baller projections for the head-to-head finals. Fullbacks, Tommy Turbo, 86. Scotty Drink, 86. Jayden Campbell, 85. Latrell Mitchell, if he plays this week, 85.
And
so
if he goal kicks is the other
if he
thing.
goal
He's got
kicks,
that
yeah.
quad, yeah.
So that's with the goal kicking projection. Then we're down to Teddy at 83, and then the big drop off to Gutho and Dylan Edwards, actually both 74. So that speaks to the Edwards role in that team and their tougher draw. So yeah, certainly wouldn't be chasing Dylan Edwards this week. Turbo, I bought him last week, obviously in the slop in Manly, didn't quite work out. Unfortunately, he had an early try assist, but that was the end of the party. I very happy to own, and like Brian said, I think he's going to be a captain option, not this week, but certainly for the following 3, where he's really the draw finally turns for Manly, because they've had a pretty tricky draw up till now.
All right, fellas, let's hit these last couple of topics, because I want to have time to spend a good 20 minutes on the head-to-head finals. Let's jump through these last couple. Matt, you've identified some red flag players. You've got down Connor Watson, Tommy Starling, Hudson Young, and Viliame Kikau. What's going on here? I don't really understand. Why are these guys red flag players?
I suppose it's just more that they've had their struggles in one way or another over the last few weeks. So Connor Watson obviously had a few down weeks post-Origin where he was playing 80, but between having to move to 5'8" and the game's just not panning out, he played 80 minutes at hooker one game. Just not conducive. And I think you are going to get a bit of that moving forward with Connor. They obviously always play a hooker on the bench, so it's a matter of are the middle minutes there? What does the bench look like? With Radley back, it actually stings him a little bit. He was very crook on the weekend. He started on the bench. By all accounts, he was not in a good way and was actually in severe doubt to play. He managed to punch out 64, and that was amazing for me because I had no one else to play there. So I was very pleased. It's more just be a bit careful whenever you have to roll Watson out. I'm just hopeful. I have to play him at the moment, so yeah, I'm just hopeful. Do you want me to go through the other ones here?
No, I mean, I'll quickly take Starling if you want. Starling's a walking red flag because of Ricky Roulette. You don't know where the minutes are going to be. If he gets big minutes, I think he's been pretty fantastic. There's a reason people have held him for most of the year.
Can't play him.
You can't play him with confidence.
Unless you have to.
And there's always just that chance that it might be the week where Ricky goes, all right, I want to get 35 minutes into Owen Paddy this week, and I'm going to give Tommy a bit of an early breather. So I think that's a bit nerve-wracking, I think. What about Hudson Young? Why is he on this list? I don't know if you heard on the weekend, Matt. Pretty wet over the weekend.
Yeah, pretty wet.
He got 91 the week before.
I think it's just here, just it's a nothing to worry about. That's all. I wouldn't be doing anything.
I wouldn't say nothing, boys, because he's got that osteotis pubis that he's dealing with. So
something to worry about.
And in the wet, an issue like that is gonna aggravate, because it takes more. From your legs to, I over-exaggerate it and say it's like running in quicksand. That puts more pressure through your muscles and those kind of things in your legs, and that's something that can flare up osteotis pubis. So I'm not saying that's definitely what it was, but that was always a concern kind of coming out of Origin for me, is what's Hudson Young going to look like. Full disclosure, I was going to bring him in last week until the Herbie thing happened because he looked so good, but this is kind of the nature of osteotis pubis, right? Is you can be going good and then you can go down and back up and go down, and so it's not without risk.
It's really then just a bit of a buyer beware if you are picking him up.
A little bit.
Obviously, it's a tricky week to get him, given they got the bye next week. But plenty will be looking at him for that round 25. Anyway, hopefully Hudson can bounce back this week.
The bye will be great for him. Nice little rest to kind of give it a week off. So yeah.
And Billy Kikau's the last one he had on the list, Matt. I completely agree with you on him being on this list because he was my rage trade in the Sunday snap. I found him a very frustrating own. I do think that he's going to come good though. I do think that those left set plays will start to come his way again. And that he will have some big games on the run home. And I'm going to be playing him this week over someone like a Connor Watson when I had that choice to make.
Yeah, 3-round base plus power of only 46.7, which...
Not ideal.
Jono, and we were sitting here a month ago saying he's got a 3-round base plus power of 70.
Yeah.
So the output has really, really gone down over the past few weeks. I was very concerned about not owning him, but it's obviously been a pleasure watching him score 30, obviously, on the weekend. Yeah, he's going to be a sit-start. Very interesting sit-start conundrum. I still think he'll have a couple of good scores on the run home, but I'm certainly not buying him.
And the last thing we want to talk about is the conundrum that a few super coaches are facing this week, where they have Terrell May on the bye. They've got Tino Fa'asuamaleaui as their third front row forward. The question is, Matt, give us a quick answer. You cannot use the word team dependent. Should people make a trade at front row forward and bring in a Jackson forward to make sure they have a full squad, or should they just save the trade and look at this chance as a free loop?
Save the trade. I wouldn't be. I mean, trades are so scarce now. I spoke earlier about Beau Fermor not having enough dynamite. Well, if Beau doesn't have enough dynamite, Jackson Ford certainly does not have enough dynamite. So yeah, I would think AEs are underrated. Jono, you know how much I love an AE. They're not to be feared. There's something to be embraced. And you yourself will be taking an AE at front row forward this week. And squads are so strong, it's really only if you have a disaster artist like, I don't know, Oren Keeley or someone like that, that you shouldn't be worried.
The great Oren Keeley coming off the best game of his career. I don't
90
think so.
Points. He's a sit-start conundrum all of a sudden.
Let's get into it, fellas. Let's talk about head-to-head finals. This is our Baller Blueprint segment of the week. As Matt mentioned at the top of the show, it is week one of head-to-head finals in Classic, and I don't play draft, but I am correct in saying it's head-to-head finals starting in draft as well. So big week for a lot of people. I just want to give you a little bit of a public service announcement that I think is very, very important. Lineup flexibility for head-to-head finals players is absolutely key. It is essential that when you're setting up your team, you make sure the guys who are playing earlier in the round are not on the bench with R's on their name on your reserve list. You need to get them in your starting lineup if you want to play them, because you need that lineup flexibility so that you can maybe trade guys. If you're looking at your season being over and you're a head-to-head player, if you have a guy who's locked in and you can't move him, that's very, very frustrating. So you need to make sure these guys are on the bench and you have that lineup flexibility. Case in point, I know C-Mac, who is a baller contributor and a very good SuperCoach player, he made this error early in the year. He had one there. Remember when Jayden Campbell got hurt and it was a late mix-up, and C-Mac was stuffed because he's one of the bench had already been locked out. He couldn't change anything, so he had to make a trade to Dylan Brown, which he did not want to do, but he was just going to be stuck if he didn't. So really important to get that going. Matty,
that actually was a bit of a. Oh, I don't know if it was the match that lit the fuse, but it wasn't far away from the downfall of his season. He was sixth at one point around that time. It shows what can happen, though. You really got to be steadfast in making sure that your team's set up right. I actually did that on the weekend, Jono, without even meaning to. We had the watch along Thursday night, and I had Campbell and Munster, and Munster hadn't obviously played the week before, and I never switched him back on field. Thankfully, Campbell played and obviously scored really well, so I got away with it. But in another world, that's a disaster.
Yeah. So that's more of a PSA. But I want to hear from you, Brien. Obviously, if you are sitting in that top 4 this week of your head-to-head league, you will be potentially getting a free look. If you lose, you get a second chance. Would that impact your mindset at all in terms of being aggressive with your trades this week, or do you think it's just really important to make the trades, try and win this week, and then you still can fall back if you need to?
Yeah, I think I'm all about trying to have to rely on as little luck as possible. And I think if you lose this week, you've got to win. Like, you've effectively got to rely on luck for 4 weeks because you've got to then play next week. So I'm all about going hard this week, trying to get that week off. So then you're only playing roulette with kind of 2 weeks then, the semis and the prelims and the finals. So yeah, I'm a big go hard now so that you don't have to, because who knows, 4 people could get injured this week, and if you somehow get the week off next week, some of those guys might be back. You might get a Tino back or something like that by the time the next one comes around. So yeah, just my approach is go hard or go home.
I'm completely with you, Matt. I'm assuming you don't have the opposite view.
No, you know me, John. I'm the same. You got to bank the money that's on the table. From that perspective, you just never know what can happen. Like, you can get a luck. You might have the team who you come up against, their pod is out next week. So there's so many things that could happen. All you can control is what's in front of you now. And yeah, we say at the start of the year, like when we do drafts and stuff, it's like, oh well, Latrell Mitchell's not going to play in the grand final week, so I'm not going to draft him. It's like, well, all right, well, let's try and get to the grand final and then worry about Latrell not being there when we get there, if he's there at all anyway, if he's on the park. So, yeah, I think you just got to play what's in front of you and make sure I think you got to go all out in the top 4. Obviously, in the bottom 4 or any, if you're in an elimination final, whatever your structure of your league, then you go it all out this week if that's what's important to you to win your head-to-head. Trying to balance overall versus head-to-head at times can be very hard, Jono. So, yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on head-to-head and my strategy there.
Yeah, and I think obviously one thing I was going to mention, if you're a specific head-to-head player, you should be having 8 to 10 trades left for this next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I say 10 because you should even have a couple of boosts, because those guys, like, shout out to a guy now in my cash league, Richo, who has 8 trades coming into this week. He just completely tanked the buy rounds because our team didn't play head-to-head. So he has 8 trades and his team looks fantastic. I'm sitting above him on the ladder. I'm sitting above him overall. He's absolutely a bigger favourite to win our cash league over me because I've got 2 trades left. I'd rather be in his position. But I guess that's the benefit of where you said tying that line between overall and head-to-head. That's where if you're a specific head-to-head player, you really have the advantage now. Matt, do you want to bring up that slide that you have about some teams' strength of schedules? Because we want to talk about opposition teams to target. And you guys spoke about AJ Brimson earlier, and Brien, you made some really good points about who the hell knows what's going to happen with Kinney. This is where head-to-head players have the advantage because they play the Rabbitohs this week. The Rabbitohs are, unfortunately, and I say this as a fan, running out what is a glorified reserve grade team. And I would love to have Brimson this week. I'm not going to bring him in as a replacement because I have that concern of, I don't have to trade him back out. These head-to-head guys, I would make Brimo my number 1 target if I have the trades to bring him in this week and trade him on next week if I can.
Yeah.
Is that too extreme, Matt, or do you think that's the right kind of mindset for these guys with trades left?
Oh, with trades left for sure. Like, just attack the matchups. We can see here, like, Rabbitohs have been the team to concede the most SuperCoach points on average per week all season. So 952 overall, but then in the second half of the season, they're averaging 965, and that's only getting worse. So I haven't got all the projections up for the team, but that I would expect that we would see projected average of over 1,000 for these remaining games. So they're just going to be the number 1 team to target by an absolute country mile. Cowboys, Titans, similar boat. Titans are a little bit on the up only because of their draw. And like Brien said, you just never know what you're going to get. It's a complete, it's always up in the air. They generally don't like to tackle very much, so that's always good if you trying to get a SuperCoach opponent against them. But yeah, I to answer your question, Jono, if I had trades, I'd be flipping guns with great draws as hard as I could.
Do you want to bring up that other side where it shows the actual run home for us, and we can talk through some of the teams who do have the best runs? Brian, I'm going to throw to you first. No, I'm not, because you're coughing. That's okay. I can throw to Matty. I'll come back to you next. Matt, is there a particular team who jumps out to you as you like this team for their run home?
Oh, mate, I think as an upward spiral goes to finish the year, Parramatta are obviously a lot of people are talking about them, but they're obviously one of these teams who don't have half a foot in Bali already. They're playing for 20 to 26 spots, and I think we saw that. I think Bailey. There was a rumor today that Bailey Simonson's asked for a release, and he's not been picked this week despite being fit. So there's a really tough mindset going there on Jason Riles, but that's not the reason why I'm so interested. The reason why I'm so interested is because of this draw. They play Cowboys at home, Rabbitohs away, Roosters home, Warriors away through this head-to-head finals period. Now, Warriors away is tricky, no doubt, but like discussed at length, they're not the team they were. So, yeah, I would say Eels for me would be the number one draw there on the board. Away from that, obviously Titans, who we've spoken about, and also Cowboys. Now, they're not the most... They're obviously good teams to match up against, but that we know they've got a lot of attacking flair. So, yeah, those are the teams, particularly for some pot options, I'd be looking to target.
What about you, Brian, of that list that we got in front of us that the YouTube followers can see? Is there a team that really jumps out to you?
Yeah, look, I'm going to confirm my own bias here and say the Seagulls. Obviously, this week, Raiders isn't fantastic, but then, yeah, the next 3 weeks, Tigers, Dolphins, Dragons, I really like. I think I love my Finns, but that Seagulls clash against the Dolphins at home in round 25, that, yeah, could be anything depending on how the Finns' injuries are going and stuff like that. The other one, and this is another one where this week is a bit of a tough one, but I love the Bronx kind of 3-week run after this week. So Dolphins at home, Knights away, Cowboys away. Like, yeah, I just think the Bronx are so up and down, right? 1 week they lose to the Eels, the next week they put 60 on a reserve grade Rabbit. So it's like, where do they sit? But yeah, I just think if you're trying to win finals games, I'm going for ceiling, and the Broncos have one of the highest ceilings in the comp. So yeah, that's why I kind of really like the options there.
I like both the three teams you guys have pointed out. I think fantastic. The other two I'm going to chuck in there is the Titans and the Warriors, and we mentioned they're two teams who maybe are favourable to play against, but these are two teams who also have good draws home. The Titans, Rabbitohs, Sharks, Warriors, Dolphins. I think they're nice matchups overall. And the Warriors themselves, obviously Dogs, a bit of a tough one this week, but then they go Dragons, Titans and Eels. So if I'm someone who's kind of hunting some pods, I think they're good teams to look at. And it's why I think that Jayden Campbell is such a great pickup. If you don't own him, I would prioritise getting him right now. All right, let's get back into a bit of the other kind of head-to-head finals chat. And I want to talk about end-of-year injuries. And Brian, I'm really keen to pick your brain. Having you on the pod is fantastic because a lot was made of, and you spoke about it yourself a fair bit in length on other platforms, about coaches not resting Origin players, backing them up with really high frequency this year. It seemed higher than normal. Do you think that is going to lead to even more carnage for us SuperCoach players on the run home?
Yeah, I'm definitely nervous about it. I think this year, I would say in all the years that I've done NRL Physio, I have never seen guys backed up once again against prior logic than I've seen. We had guys like Harry Grant who played 80 minutes in Origin, then he was coming out and playing I think there was one game where Melbourne went to extra time and he played 85 minutes or something not long after. And teams just haven't done that in previous years. That isn't even me kind of going off what my own personal beliefs are in terms of, load management and stuff like that. It's just the history. We have data that shows us that teams have rested, and especially coming back from Perth. Yeah, it was just all over the shop a little bit this year. I banked on Perth quite a few resting, so I'm definitely nervous. We're starting to see these injuries pile up. It's going to be a long 5 weeks for idiots who have no trades left after this week, like myself. I'm definitely nervous about that. And then I'm also nervous about the fact that, restings when it comes to those last couple of rounds. I think maybe they haven't been resting so far this season and they're going to throw a few at us in those final rounds. So it's going to be a bit of a lottery, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, again, be nice to have some trades. Be good if we could turn a boost into a trade, like you mentioned earlier, if anyone has those out there. Trading out fit players, like we obviously spoke about.
Jono, sorry. Can I
Yeah,
I just want to chime in. Just to add to Brian's resting point, I think something we really need to be careful for, and this goes towards what you were saying before about potentially saving the trade if you don't have to make it. I'm really, really worried about round 27 this year, not only for the injury restings that we might see, but it's the table. So I think we're going to get to a point, or the ladder, I should say. We're going to get to a point in round 27 where we might have Raiders and Storm locked up top two, Bulldogs and either Panthers, probably Panthers most likely, but Panthers or Sharks.
or Warriors.
Or Warriors, yeah, potentially. That's sort of top four, but definitely Bulldogs could have nothing to play for in third. And even the Bulldogs might even want to lose and they might rather play Canberra than go play Melbourne. So I'm worried about them. Then I'm worried about the 8 because we've basically got a three-way go for 8th spot now, Brian, which I know you're riding quite hard, which is Dolphins, Manly and Roosters. I can definitely see a scenario where, we've got Brisbane and the Warriors locked into 5th and 6th and they have nothing to play for either. So we get to this point. This is what happened 2 years ago that no one had anything to play for in round 27. I think this is just a huge chance to happen again, the way the ladder is shaping at the moment. Just wanted to throw that in before we moved on.
No, great point. I mean, it doesn't really affect the head-to-head finals baller blueprints,
No.
which they're doing right now, but it is generally a really good point. And I think almost like last year, a lot of people were banking trades because of the scars from the year before. And then last year, it just didn't happen. So it's like people have gone, oh, well, I'm not too worried about that. We'll be sweet. And I think it is going to come back to bite myself and probably all three of us in this podcast right now. I was just going to say, those guys, obviously we spoke about head-to-head players having a heap of trades. They can trade out fit players. For the rest of us, there's just no real reason to trade out a fit player who's underperforming at the moment, like a Mark Nwangani-Tuivasa. You might be unhappy. You might not know when you're going to play him, but there is absolutely no reason to trade him out because he's fit and he's someone who can take the field each week.
Don't trade out fit players. I think that's the key. I've got Oren Keeley, who everyone knows, who listens to any of this pods knows that I own Oren Keeley. And yeah, he's playing well, but he's going to go back to a 50-minute role and be a 38 player. But I'll tell you what, if I'm down to 15 players in round 27, that 38 he's going to hit like. So, yeah, I'm going to, I will not be trading anyone with a warm,
I've got Talon De Silva in my reserve hooker spot, and mate, those 20 points are gonna be real handy over the next 6 weeks. I can tell you.
How good's Talon De Silva?
Oh, mate,
Did not expect that.
I'll raise your Oren Keeley with Talon De Silva.
What about guys on the buys? So we obviously have the Tigers on the buy this week. Not that relevant outside of Terrell May. We got the Raiders, the Sharks, and the Rabbitohs, who again maybe Latrell Mitchell if he's back and fit, but otherwise not very relevant. I generally think that Timoko would have been spoken about more if not for that Raiders buy next week. Like Timoko, I was looking at his numbers. He has averaged 46 in base plus power for the course of the year. His 5-round average at ballr.live is 55 for the last 5 rounds for base plus power. So he's looking really fit. He's one of these guys, I do go to a fair few Raiders games, and he's a guy you can really see how fit Matt Timoko is by the style of footy he's playing. When he is 100% fit, his work rate is enormous. You cannot keep him away from the ball. When he has a niggle, and he does have them sometimes with his lower legs, usually doesn't keep him out of footy, but just impacts him, he just kind of puts that away a little bit. So I think he would have been a huge option. But obviously, they got the bye next week. You just can't look at touching him, can you?
I wouldn't look at Timoko personally. I take your points on board, Jono. He's in great form. And they're definitely hitting him more. It's tricky. Head-to-head specific. If you have trades, I really, really like going after guys on a buy who might have a buy in the next 2 weeks. So we spoke about, playing the straight bat that's in front of you right now. You're going to get guys who are pods that no one else is going to pick up because of the buy. So someone like a Ronaldo, might be a good one. Tibico, who you mentioned there. If you've got a few trades up your sleeve, I'm not saying you necessarily have to trade them out for the buy. If you've got some squad depth is probably the most important factor here. If you've got fit players who you can, you've got 20, 21, 22 players who you can get out on the field on a given week, I really like the head-to-head strategy of buying players of teams who have a buy in the next few weeks.
Yeah, okay. That's a different way to think of it. Brian, is there anyone from Raiders, Sharks, Rabbitohs who you would look at potentially bringing in spite of upcoming buys?
Oh boy, I do like the Sharks probably of the lot. Like
Great
Sharks
thought.
outside, Sharks outside backs particularly.
Ronnie is being brought in by a few this week.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Like I just think their draw kind of gets me over the top. We saw Ronnie can do over the weekend. I'm not going to a William Kennedy or something too drastic, but I think probably the Sharks, even like a Britton Nickera, who was pretty average, over the weekend. Like I don't mind him as well. So yeah, probably the Sharks are the ones that draw me in the most there.
Matt, get on your Hogwarts black robes, slick your hair back like Severus Snape, because you are going to be our Defence Against the Dark Arts teacher. You want to talk about a few little tactics of how you can kind of get the wood over your opponent. Feel free to do it as an Alan Rickman impersonation. I think would be highly entertaining if you've got that in you. But tell us what your thoughts are on the Dark Arts.
I definitely don't have an Alan Rickman. Maybe an
I was hoping you'd give...
Alan Ricksman. We'll go with that.
Oh, that's good.
Alan Ricksman would suggest. Yeah. Now, no, I don't whatsoever purport to be a proponent of the dark arts of head-to-head, because I'm not a head-to-head player per se, but I've seen some people do some crazy stuff like switching their lineups out. They'll put all their NPRs on the field so that you have no idea who they're sitting, no idea who you're starting, particularly if your opponent has the same player as you and they might be a pod or they might be a sit-start risk. So, yeah, getting the players, getting no one on the field basically is good. Getting your projection as low as possible to lure them into a false sense of security. And I'm not talking about their ball projection. I'm talking about their SuperCoach Gold projection. That seems to work on some people. Captain choices. So vice captaining someone up to the last second, putting the reserve on players you have no intention of playing. Doing this right up until the last moment. Now, this takes a lot of skill, Jono. You need to be making sure that you're all over it, because if you are not, you are quickly the one who will be the victim of the dark arts.
Thank you, Alan Ricksman. We appreciate your dark arts conspiracy theories. Guys, I think that pretty much brings us to a close in terms of head-to-head finals. That's a very deep analysis. Geez, we went deep on the centre wings tonight as well. Been a bumper show. Matt, from the baller perspective, is there anything you want to plug for the listeners before we head off?
No, but I do want to thank Brien for coming on, and I want to thank him for his support in our inaugural year at Baller. It's been fantastic. The platform he has and the community that he's built via the NRL Physio account has been amazing to become a part of and to tap into. And it's clear whenever Brien does anything with us, we get amazing traction over at Baller. So yeah, just very thankful to have Brien as a partner and to have him on tonight. It's been wonderful. So thanks, mate.
I appreciate it, mate. I think the thing that I've missed through doing this, we were speaking off air that I actually have a full-time job outside of this, right? I'm a physio full-time and I've got a few practices and those kind of things. And the thing I probably miss and get a bit bitter about at times with social media is I'm kind of just like putting it out there and then I get kind of not much back from it. So it's just great to have that kind of community involvement, like engage with you guys. It just makes it a bit more enjoyable, which is good too, rather than just kind of pumping content out all the time for what feels like not much interaction. So it's been really, really good. And the product you guys provide is a massive gap in the market. So yeah, really excited to see where it goes from here.
I will plug one thing, Jono, before we leave. We've got player profiles landing on ballr.live within the next week or two. So a couple of cool things to drop before the end of the season. Obviously, where they're going to be all systems go for the NRL finals and into 2026 as well. But yeah, just keep an eye for the player profiles because they are going to be fantastic for a first drop of those.
Beautiful. Well, yeah, Brien, thank you so much for joining us tonight, mate. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I've been a big admirer of your work for years, and we were actually saying in pre-pod how funny I find it that you're just synonymous phys or physio. Like if there's an injury in rugby league, everyone's first message in the group chats is, has Phys said anything yet? So, mate, really good to have you on. I think for rugby league nerds and SuperCoach nerds, you've been a massive part of the community and have gained such a great loyal following. So well done. Thanks for coming on. Massive fan of your pod, The Magic Sponge, and make sure people are downloading that on a Sunday night, ready for their commute on a Monday morning.
After the snap.
Oh, look, I'll even say listen before the snap. Just do both. I don't mind what order. And Matt, as always, good to see you. I hope you can keep fighting for that rank, mate. Let's see you push into the top 20. And do you have anything else for us tonight?
Mate, thank you very much. Well hosted, and you'll be okay.